Hello, sixth graders. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to make an optical illusion sphere. Okay, a sphere, as you know, is a 3D circle. Okay, it's like a ball. So the first thing you're going to need is to find something that you can trace. Okay, some kind of circular object that you can trace. If you see this, it's the perfect size. It's not too small. Like if I were to go with this salt container, it's going to be too small. Okay. If I were to go with a big plate, you don't want it to come all the way to the edges, okay? It needs to be kind of in the middle of your paper. This might not be too bad either. I thought about using, which it looks really big because it's zooming in, but let me take the top off and you'll see. Like a Clorox container is not too bad, okay? The only issue you're going to run into is that the hinges, they kind of stick out a little, so when you're tracing around, you might get a little bump there that you'll have to fix. But if you have a Clorox container, which most of us right now especially have Clorox wipes on hand, so if you do, you can always use the top of your Clorox container. Just remember to put it back on so your mom and dad don't get mad at you, so that your Clorox wipes don't dry out. Alright, so now that I got stuff all over my paper, let me put my circle towards the center of my paper. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my one hand and I'm going to hold it down so that it doesn't move. And with the other hand, I'm going to trace around the circle. I'm going to try not to angle my pencil differently. I'm going to try to keep it straight up and down the whole time, because if I angle it differently, I'm going to get like double lines. Like you can see here, I have a little bit of one, but you don't want to have crazy double lines. You can barely see that, huh? Let me darken the line for you because I want to make sure you guys can see it. Okay. I have a habit of drawing everything light at first, and that's for a reason, because if I draw it light, then I can erase easy, you know. So I'm just going to darken up my line. I don't suggest you do this. I suggest you keep it light, and you know, you'll see why. If you have a mistake when you go to erase something that's drawn nice and light, it makes it much easier to erase. I'm just doing this so that you all can see it when we're doing our demonstration. Alright, let's see. And I'll clean up my edges because some of them are a little sketchy. Okay, like right here, sketchy. Alright, much better. Okay, so now what you need to do is you kind of need to find the center of your circle. One easy way to do this is if you take like a piece of paper and you go from the one edge to the other edge, mark where that edge goes, okay? And then you can take this and fold it until it goes to that edge. If you do that, you're going to find where the center is going to be, because it's going to be wherever that fold is. So now when I open it back up, I can just put a little line here where that fold is, and I'm going to know that's where the center of my circle is. So if I put it back in here, I can just put a line right here, okay? And then it should be the same this way. So when I put it right with that, oh, it doesn't look exactly the same, which is kind of confusing. That's definitely lined up. So my circle is not a perfect circle. Okay, so the thing that I used to trace, not a perfect circle. So I'm going to have to make a second line, and so that I know which line's which, I'm going to make it with a different color. Okay, so now I'm going to have to fold it again to find this second spot. And the reason why we need to do this is because we have to draw our, you're going to draw the, whatchamacallit, the crosshairs basically in the center of your circle. So if I line this up, I'm going to take my regular pencil and I'm going to draw a little line going out like this. So now I know where my lines should be, okay? So now that I did that with my straight edge, probably not the best thing to do. If you're doing it, don't do it with your straight edge, because now I got a bend in my straight edge. but I can still work with it. So now I'm gonna continue that line all the way across. I know it goes in the halfway point from here of my circle, and I'm going to do the same thing with the one that goes up and down. So that and I'm going all the way off the page, as you can see. See, I went all the way off the top, and all the way off the bottom, and all the way off either side. Okay? So now you have something that looks like crosshairs. I promise you that's not what it is. We are going to make an optical illusion sphere. Okay? But this is how you have to start. Now, very, very, very important. Every curved line that I'm going to draw inside this sphere is going to have to go to the point where your curved line of the outside, the perimeter of your circle, touches your crosshair, either vertical or horizontal line. Okay? I'm going to show you exactly what I mean with that. I know that sounds confusing. But if I'm going to draw my curved line here inside my sphere, I want to make sure it's going to start at this point where the straight line hits the curved line, and it's going to end at this point where the straight line hits the curved line. And it doesn't matter if it's the first one I do or the second one I do. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to start here. Now, if it helps you, you can always mark off 2 dots here where you're going to put your, where you need your curved line to go through, because you really do want it to be about the same spacing for each. So if you kind of just mark this off evenly spaced so that this looks like the same size as this and it looks like the same size as that, that can help you. Okay, you can do that on either side. So I'm just gonna, I got used to eyeballing it. I can do it. But if you have trouble and you need to measure it, then measure it. It's fine. I'm gonna start here, and I'm going to curve my line down to that first dot that I made. Okay? And from there, I'm going to curve it all the way over to here. Notice it's going right to there. Okay? Now the second one, you think, oh, well, maybe I'll do it here. No, we want it to go right from here again. So from here, I'm going to curve my line right in the middle of the space that's left. Okay? And now I'm going to curve it back to that dot. Okay? That's what you want to do each and every time. Okay? So from here, I'm going to curve it down till it goes to that dot and continue on that same curve. If it makes it easier to go up, sometimes I'll stop and I'll start going up to meet the line so that it stays a nice curve. Okay? But notice it goes to that point. And the second one, same thing. It's got to go to that point. If you guys don't put it to that point, then I'm going to know you didn't watch this video. Okay? So make sure it goes to that point. Same thing when it comes up here. You're going to come from that point and curve it right to that dot. Okay? Once you have this, we're halfway done the sphere. Okay? We still have to do the ones that go this way. Okay? So on this middle line here, I'm going to do the same thing I did over here, and I'm going to mark off spots. One there and one there. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. One here and one here. Okay? And so now you can either hold your paper like this, or you can turn it if it's easier for you to draw your curved lines. Okay? And you're going to start curving your line. Oops. See, I didn't quite make my line. I'm going to erase it. You don't have to, I mean, if yours still looks good, I'm just trying to get it to where I want it as close as possible. So, curve my line so that it goes to here. And then when it comes back, it's going to come back to this point. Because remember, I said it's got to go to those 2 points. You can't have it, cannot end anywhere else. It has to go to those 2 points where your straight line intersects your curved line. Okay, so now I'm going to do the next one. The next one starts right here. It's going to curve around, go right to there, and then it's going to curve all the way back, and it's got to come to that same point. Okay? Same thing with the ones that are down here. Okay? It's going to start right here at this point, go through the little marker that I made, which it's a little bit low and I'm not going to erase that one, and then come back up. Okay, same thing right here. Comes down. I'm a little bit low again. That's okay. Okay, it's got to go to that point though. Okay, so now let me clean up my lines a little bit. Erase my marker that I didn't meet. Because that marker is really just for you. It's just so that you know you're making it about the same size. So now the sphere is done. Okay, the next step that we need to do is the checkerboard pattern in the background. Okay, for the checkerboard pattern, I'm going to use my straight edge. My straight edge is a little bit bent, but it's still, the edge is still straight. Okay, so how do I figure out how big to make my squares in the background? I'm going to look at this middle here. Now this side's a little bit bigger than this side. Ideally this wouldn't be. Ideally it's going to be more uniform, the same. I'm going to kind of clean it up a little because you don't have to worry about it as much. I'm just, if it's my example, I want it to be right. The 4 squares that are in the center should look almost like squares. They might have a little bit of a curve to them, but they're, for the most part, they're squares. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go by when I figure out how big I want to make my squares in the background. So I'm going to draw my line. I am not going to go through the circle. I'm going to stop, just like we did with the hand, and I'm only going to go in either side. I don't know how this line went up not being straight. I can tell just by looking at it. All right. So, see what I did? I'm starting in the middle, and I'm going to work my way out. Don't start on the edge, okay? Always start in the middle. That way you know how big your squares are, okay? Because if you get to the middle and then it winds up, because of your middle line, it winds up not being the same, it's going to look weird. It's okay if the ones on the edge are a little bit smaller, but not the ones in the middle. All right, so I'm going to keep doing that. Once I get to my sphere, I stop, and then I carry on at the bottom of it. Okay? Do that the whole way. That one got a little bit smaller at the bottom, so you got to be careful how you're holding your straight edge. Make sure you're holding it on the edge of your paper so that you know your line's straight. A little bit hard. My straight edge isn't quite straight, but oops. Okay, so this line right here, my thumb got in the way, so let me kind of erase that. Now, mine won't go there because if you look, my paper actually ends right here. So when I pull it out, it's not going to be there. But, all right. Next thing, go on the other side. Same thing. Line it up with the edge of this line right here. I'm going to line it up with that and the edge of my paper. And that's how I get how big I want my squares. And I'm going to eyeball it because I really want it to be as big as the other ones on the other side. So, like that, boom. Okay, so I'm going to keep that spacing going the whole way across. Okay, line it up. Okay, that looks about right. From the top, from the bottom, go over, do your next line. From your top, from your bottom, and again, all the way across. This one, I don't have to worry about it going through the sphere because it's at the end of it. Same thing with this. It's just going to go straight from top to bottom. But with the way I'm holding this, it's kind of easier if I do half at a time. Okay. Alright, and I'm going to split this right in the middle. Alright, okay, so now we've got the vertical lines. Now we need the horizontal lines. Again, we're going to start at the middle. We do not want to start at the bottom of your paper. And you want your horizontal lines to be parallel to this middle line that you drew. Okay? So make sure you're going all the way across. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want you to do the best that you can. So that means I don't expect to see wiggly lines. If I see wiggly lines, then you're not using a straight edge or a ruler. It is very easy to tell, and this is very important. These are those skills that we're starting out with, learning how to use those rulers. And like I said, if you don't have a ruler, it's okay, but you need to use a straight edge like as if it is your ruler. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for the top. And we're going to be about the same size. I want them to look like little squares. Okay? So that's how I know I'm the right spacing apart. If I go too far, they look like rectangles. If I go too close, they look like rectangles. So I want them to look like squares. That's how you know if you're spaced far enough apart. Okay, if you made yours really close together, then you're going to have a lot of lines and a lot of small little squares. Okay, well, it might not be a problem for checkpoint 1. For checkpoint 2, it's a lot of coloring. Now remember, any of these projects, they are not allowed to be done on lined paper. No lined paper, no graph paper. This all has to be done on either sketchbook paper or computer paper. Okay, computer paper is okay because we're not painting or anything like that. If we were doing some kind of painting or even some color pencil work, you don't really want computer paper because it's really kind of shiny and it'll rip easy. Alright. Boom. Okay, that's checkpoint number 1. Just go through and make sure your lines are all the way up. Make sure that they're going across and that they're nice and straight. Okay, make sure you didn't draw any of your straight lines through here except for the first 2. Other than that, everything inside the sphere is curved. Okay, that's it for checkpoint number 1.